to my teachers. Were it not for them, I would not have anything to teach. And the two people who are teaching us tonight are these teachers. They have designed the full ACI LA curriculum, the ACI curriculum that is taught worldwide. They teach Dharma through teachings like tonight, spiritual partners, or through business, or through yoga, through different kinds of interfaith teachings all over the world. They are authors of many books, translated hundreds of thousands of pages of Sanskrit and Tibetan and Greek. What else do I have on my piece of paper here? Yeah, actually, I'm just going to let these I am so delighted to be able to bring them here and host them here and offer them to you. So, Geshe Michael and Mama Christy.
As usual, I'd like to apologize that we're late, and we have no good reason. Usually we can make up something. And we'd like to thank Mahasukha Center for having us in LA and the church, Holy Nativity Church, and especially Father Peter for having us here tonight. And a lot of close families here, my mom's here and our sisters here, and we'd like to welcome them. So, I'll tell you this story. It's been 50 years. On March 10th, it will be 50 years since Tibet was attacked. And my teacher was there at the time. And he said they were sitting in the monastery, and artillery shells started to come down on the monastery and exploding in the monks' rooms, and they killed a lot of monks in the first few hours. And then the people of the city went out to the Potala Palace. This is the palace of the Dalai Lama. So about 100,000 people ran out of the city and surrounded the palace to try to protect the Dalai Lama with their bodies, because they didn't have any weapons. And then the artillery started to come over the people into the palace. And there was, of course, great panic in the palace, and they knew they had to run. They were going to try to run. For the first time in his life, and the only time in his life, His Holiness took his robes off, and he disguised himself as a peasant. And can you hear in the back? Yeah. So then the family was ready to run through the crowd, and they stopped and they said, "Do we need to take anything with us. You know, the Potala has, I think, about 500 rooms full of stuff. And they were, you know, what shall we take? What should we take? What's the most precious thing in the palace? And they decided to take a set of paintings, scroll paintings. So there are 15 paintings that are, you can roll them up and run in a hurry if you need to. And they rolled up the scroll paintings, and everyone carried 2 or 3 paintings, and they ran. Then they, after about a month of walking over the Himalayas, they reached India, and they were put in refugee camps, and they were concerned that the paintings might be lost. So they bundled them up and they sent them to the only Tibetan organization in the United States at the time, which is a very small, obscure Mongolian temple in New Jersey. Let me use that. We'll try this thing. And so my teacher was sent there by the Dalai Lama to be the parish priest of this small temple in New Jersey. And then I was studying at the Dalai Lama's library in India in the 70s, and I met His Holiness and said I had to go back to America, and did he know any good Lama who could teach me? So he sent me to this small temple. And I spent 20 years there studying with this great Lama. And we would go into the temple and do prayers for the congregation in Tibetan. It's like Latin, and the congregation has no idea what you're saying. And they stay for 3-4 hours. And most of them fall asleep. And most of the monks fall asleep also. And so I would be sort of wandering and doing wah-wah. Wah-wah means wah, wah, wah. It's when you don't know the words to the prayer. We do a thing called wah-wah. I'm really good at it. But I would be looking at the steeple in the temple, and then I would see these beautiful paintings, 15 beautiful paintings, you know. And I always wondered what they were about. And one day my teacher sent me up the steeple to open the windows on a hot day. And halfway up I had a chance to look at the paintings. And they're extraordinary paintings. 15 paintings of the teacher of the first Dalai Lama. So this is the guy who designed the Dalai Lamas. You know, it's been 600 years of Dalai Lamas now. And this is the life story of the person who invented the Dalai Lama and who trained the first Dalai Lama. So he's got to be something special, right? And I was like looking at these paintings, and then I realized they had tiny little letters on them. And then I realized, asking people, I asked His Holiness's brother, these tell the story of the life of the teacher of the first Dalai Lama. So we went out to a French restaurant the other night, and we had made a coffee table book. It took 20 years. We made a book. You have one? I don't know. So we spent 20 years making this book, and we found a very rare manuscript which tells what's happening in the paintings, because the paintings don't really have very good captions on them. And we were giving a gift, we were giving one to Dad, to Christy's dad, at the restaurant the other night. And he said, well, what's the book about? To the whole family. He said, what's the book about? We said, Tsongkhapa. He says, Tsong? You know, I said, Tsongkhapa. He says, Zonga. I said, no, Tsongkhapa. And he goes, Tsongkhapa. And in that moment, something happened at the table. You know, something happened. You know, like one American who never heard the name Tsongkhapa said the word Tsongkhapa. And I felt this thing happen in the hearts of all the people at the table. You know, like this holy man's name, right? He's as important as Jesus, you know? He's as important as Moses. And we don't know his name, you see? And so we're sitting at the French restaurant, and Dad says to the table, "Tong Kap Pa," you know? And then I feel this thing happen, like some holy thing just happened, you know? Like someone said Tsongkhapa's name in a restaurant in Santa Monica for the first time, you know? And I believe that as Tsongkhapa's teaching gets wider known in the world, that it will change the world, you know? He's important as Jesus. He's as important as Jesus. And we just never heard of him because of the Himalayas, you know, because there was no horses that could go over the Himalayas. And so tonight, what we thought we would do is, we're releasing the book in LA tonight and tomorrow. We said to the printer, we said, make the most beautiful book you can, and make every page color, and make it as big as you can, and put it in a big expensive slipcase, you know? Because he deserves it, you know? And they did. And we only made 1,000, and they cost something like $100-something each, you know? And we're doing it to help the small temples. The temple was built by refugees from World War II, Mongols and Tibetans. And it's in a very, very poor, like a slum in New Jersey. I mean, New Jersey is a slum, but this is inside New Jersey. Inside New Jersey is a slum. And very, very, very poor people, very poor neighborhood. And I lived there for 20 years, and they struggle to pay the bills. And the whole thing is surrounded by a ring of adult bookshops, and, you know, pawn shops and gun shops. And the temple is the only thing of beauty in the whole 10 miles, you know, of strip malls and highways and gas refineries. And there's this beautiful Buddhist temple, you know, and they are very poor and they can't afford to keep the temple. We're afraid they'll lose the temple, especially because of oil prices. So we made the book to support the temple. We're giving 100% of the money to the temple. So we had a release in New York at Thanksgiving, and in the first night we raised $35,000. And that's enough for oil for like 4 years. So you guys have to do at least 2 years. And then we'll have 6 years of oil bills. So that's basically what we're doing. We're going to talk about important parts from the book, important events from the life of the teacher of the first Dalai Lama, as they relate to finding a spiritual partner. Okay, so what's a spiritual partner? It's a man and woman relationship. Could be other, you know, man, woman, but basically a man and woman relationship. It doesn't mean that both parties are spiritual, right? It doesn't mean that you drag your partner to temple or to church, or that you have to meditate together, or anything like that. It means you approach the relationship in a new way. You fix problems, and you create opportunities in the relationship by using spiritual means, you see? So it's not that you're spiritual. You don't have to be spiritual to stay in the church tonight. We're going to talk about how to find a partner. If you already have a partner, how to keep the partner. And then, you know, lots of times you find them and keep them, but you're just miserable together. So we thought we would add a part 3, which is how to be happy together. And then reach some higher goals or something like that. And what's beautiful is that in Tibet, there are ancient teachings on how to have a spiritual partner, you know, how to find a good partner, how to stay with them, how to be happy together. And I'd like to emphasize 2 things. I mean, one is that you don't have to be a Buddhist. It's just a system of how to have a good relationship. And you can use this system and never see a Buddha or never hear the word Buddhism, and it doesn't matter. Okay? You can be anything. We taught this in China to the Communist Party, and they like it. No, they actually wrote a book. They did a book. They came out with a book of our teachings in China, in Chinese. And so you don't have to be Buddhist. You can be atheist. You can be communist. You can be anything. Secondly, the system we're going to present, you can use even if your partner could care less. Okay? So it's something that you do by yourself, and then it changes your partner. Okay? So if you don't have a partner, it will help you find a partner. If you have a partner and you want to adjust a few things about them, or more than a few, you can do it without ever mentioning to them what you're doing. So everything comes from you, and they don't have to know, and they don't have to agree to it. You can change your partner by doing certain things yourself, you see? So that's the beauty of the Tibetan system, this ancient system. It's a very, very ancient Buddhist teaching, right? So we're going to go through it in 12 different steps. We'll do 6 tonight, we'll do 6 tomorrow. And we'll split them up. And we took selections from the book, we took selections from the paintings, and we put them into posters. And then those posters are around the church tonight. And we'll be speaking about one poster each time. So I get to start. I think people don't really know that, the first vow of a monk is that you have to be celibate. You can't be with a lady, right? We're not even allowed to stand in a room with a lady without another person there, you see? So they say, well, how can you speak about spiritual partners, Why are you doing up there together? And I think many people don't know that in the monastery, when you finish your studies, which take 20 years, the basic course takes 20 years. Then you are awarded, if you pass a very difficult examination, you're given a Geshe degree. And then you are given permission to take a partner. And you are given permission to start practicing spiritual partnership. So we thought what we would do is start from there in Jetsun Kapa's life. By the way, J means big guy. Lord, okay? And then Tsongkhapa is his name. He came from a place called Tsongkhap, which means onion place. And it's a river, and on the side of the river there are green onions growing. And so he came from a place called Tsongkhap, so they call him Tsongkhapa. So you'll hear us say Jet Tsongkhapa. You have to think this brilliant guy who invented the first dialogue. Like in LA, you invent movie stars and rock stars. He invented the Dalai Lamas, right? So, in a way, he's greater than all of them, I think. But we'll start with the first poster. I don't know if you have it. It's called Spiritual Partner. Find your spiritual partner. No, right hand. Oh. Okay, we'll do it tomorrow. Maybe I can give you the break. You can't see it. You'll have to imagine the poster, all right? But in this poster, there's a beautiful scene of Jetsun Kapa was almost 50 when he began his spiritual partnership. He had a divine connection with an angel called Manjushri. Manjushri is the angel of wisdom, and he was able to speak to Manjushri directly, And over the course of his life, this angel gave him teachings, told him what to do, what to write. He wrote many, many thousands of pages, and the angel basically coached him his whole life. Then there came a time, he was almost 50, and the angel said, look, we got to talk now. And he said, Jetsun Kapa, how long have I been giving you secret visions, And so Kapa's like, I don't know, it's like 15, 20 years now, And he says, well, I'm tired. No more secret vision stuff. I taught you everything, it's time to get serious with your life. You're 50, you're getting to a certain age, you gotta get serious now. Stop the philosophy already. It's time to practice big time, And so Kapa's like, oh, what, should I do another retreat? Should I learn a new meditation? He says, no, you have to get a partner. You know? It's time to get a partner. And so Kapa's like, why? And he says, well, that's the only way you can get enlightened in one lifetime, is if you have a partner. You know? This is a Buddhist teaching. It's the only way. On the final night of your enlightenment, you and your partner start practicing at midnight together. And they say when dawn breaks, you're both enlightened. You know? When the dawn breaks, you both cross over into enlightenment together at the same time. You know? And Manjushri is like, it's time to get a partner, you know? I'm leaving. You know? You're not going to get a lot of visions anymore. It's going to come from your partner now. You know? From your spiritual partner. So Tsongkhapa said, okay, Manjushri disappears. And then Tsongkhapa's like, the next morning he gets up and he has a student called Tokdenpa, which means the realized one, right? Tokpa. And he says to Tokdenpa, I don't know, something weird happened yesterday with Manjushri. And I said, what? He said, I think he was telling me to get a partner, you know, like a lady, to find a lady to be a partner, and she'd take me to enlightenment, but it seems really weird to me, you know? And Tokdenpa says, well, let me check in with Manjushri myself. You know, so Tokdenpa, he's waiting to see Manjushri falls asleep. And he has this dream of all these stupas, all these Buddhist shrines, these beautiful Buddhist chapas. And you'll be able to see it, we'll get it for you later, but there are these angels up in the clouds, these beautiful ladies, you know, and they have these precious vases full of divine nectar. And they are pouring nectar down on the little shrines, you know. And then they're singing these beautiful songs, which we still sing in the monastery. Which you know. Like that, very beautiful. We still sing this song. He heard this song, and the angels were singing it, and they're pouring this nectar on this shrine. So he wakes up, and then he's in a vision of angel of Manjushri, and he says, wow, what was that dream about, Manjushri? And Manjushri says, the nectar is the partner's nectar. And they are pouring it on the shrine, and the shrine is Tsongkhapa. And he's receiving the nectar from his partner, you know. It's time for him to seek a partner. He has to find a partner, you see. So Manjushri says the same thing to Tokdenpa. Tokdenpa's in the bottom left hand, Tokdenpa's telling Tsongkhapa the good news. You know, you have to find a partner. Tsongkhapa can't find one for a long time because monks don't know about clubs and. When they tell you in the monastery, go find a partner, you're like, well, I haven't really talked to a lady in 3 years, you know. Well, you can use that as a line, you know. But usually don't believe it. But so up above you see his partner is called Tangsha Mamo. Tangsha means she's got this Aussie hat that was imported to Tibet in the 14th century. But it looks like an Australian hat with a fold, right? Which is called a Tangsha. And Tangsha Mamo means she used to wear this red hat, you know. And she starts showing up at Tsongkhapa's house, you know, this lady, this special lady all the time. And she's talking to him and giving him advice. And then one day, he's finishing this very special book called Bedum Kunsel, which means all secrets are revealed. All secrets are revealed. And it's a book about partner practice. He finishes the last line. The lady in red walks to the door, and she shifts into an angel. And she tells him how to get to heaven. You know, right there, right then, he's dropping his pen in the picture, and she's telling him, "Now come, time to go." You know, and she took him to heaven like this. Your partner does this. You see. So we're going to talk about that process. There's another part of that painting. You can't really tell, but in the middle there's a lady sleeping under a brown blanket, and she's dreaming of this long line of women. And this is Tsongkhapa's mother. On the night that he was conceived, she had a dream that she was standing in this beautiful meadow with thousands of women in a line, and two angels, one boy, one girl, who are up at the top on either side. They came into the meadow, and they went down the line one by one. And the boy says to the woman, to the girl, "Is this the one?" And she says, no, no. And they go down through the 1,000 women, and then at the end they reach Tsongkhapa's brother, and he says, is this the one? And she goes, yes, that's the one, you know. So then he came into her womb at that time. The reason we added it to the picture is that what we're going to teach you about partners, you can use for children. Children can also be special, and children can also take you to heaven. You can have a family life if you wish, and it can become a spiritual practice in itself. So the principles that we're going to talk about using with your partner, if you feel it's your path, you can also use with your children. And they become divine through this process. And then they guide you. So we'll be talking more about that. That's how we added it to that poster. Okay? So Lama Chris is going to start on the actual process of how to find your partner and how to adjust them.
Hi. It's really nice for me to be here in Los Angeles because it's my birthplace. You know, it's where my parents live and all my family, and so it's like coming full circle. You know, coming back here and coming and teaching the holy things that I learned on all my travels. And so I'm going to talk about, there's a poster in the back, right back on the left-hand side. It says, question everything you know. And that's sort of my turn. And it reminds me of, you know, I come back to Los Angeles and I see so many beautiful things. I see this beautiful ocean and the sun, and I see all these beautiful people, like physically beautiful and also just heart beautiful. You know, everybody's so kind here. And, you know, we go around the world, so I have a lot to compare it to. You know, we go to China and Japan and Europe and all these other places. And then there's all this creativity here, and there's all these people reaching their dreams. And it's so beautiful. And my beautiful family, of course, is here. But for some strange reason, when I was about 17, after I finished high school, I just had to leave. You know, it was a burning desire to go. And Geshe Kappa and actually Lord Buddha, they had the same thing. You know, when Geshe Kappa was 15, he was a little younger than me. He took off. He was in this strange small town in East Tibet, and he traveled towards the center, and he was traveling, seeking wisdom. He was seeking wisdom. Because, you know, when we grow up, we are taught by our family and by the society that we live in, by our teachers, by our friends. We're taught all these things. You know, this is the way that the world works. And this is how to be happy. And at a certain point, you have to question that. At a certain point, you have to stop and say, do I agree with all of the teachings that I have received since I was a small child? Because that's your responsibility as a human being, really, as someone who is living their own life, to stop and say, you know, I'm not just going to go with the flow. I'm not just going to accept everything that my parents and my teachers and my friends taught me. I'm going to stop and ask myself, is this really true? How does the world really work? How do I really become a happy person? How do I get the partner of my dreams, which is what we're talking about, supposedly, here. And, you know, Geshe Kappa, he went towards the center. He went towards Lhasa, which is where, you know, the capital of Tibet was. And on the way, he stopped at every monastery he found. And he did this thing called debate, which is sort of it's a question and answer game that the monks play with each other in order to challenge the way that you see the world, right? And in order to play this game, you have to come into it with sort of this willingness to say, I don't know everything. This sort of humility and receptivity. So you go and you come into a monastery and they say, so, we'll play, right? We'll play a little debate. So, how did you get to the church? How did you get to Westchester? Yeah, slowly, on Lincoln Boulevard. Very, very slowly. But, anyone? How did you get here?
My car.
You drove here with your car, right? So your car got you to Westchester Boulevard, Holy Nativity Church in Westchester, right? So that's the cause for you getting to the church.
Sort of.
So anyone with a car could get to this church. Oh, you need gas. My sister, she's so smart. She said, you need gas. So a car full of gas gets you to Holy Nativity Church in Westchester. Why not? Are you saying that you could get here without a car full of gas? You'd be walking for a really long time. Okay. No, but we think things work in a certain way. And this is what Jetsun did all the way to the center of Tibet. He came, he asked questions about how we really think, how we really believe things work. I believe that I got in my car and the gas in my car got me from Santa Monica to Westchester. I believe that, but it's not true. Why isn't it true? Because some people who start out in Santa Monica with a car full of gas never get here. It's so simple you can miss it. It's so simple that you can miss it. But some people have a car full of gas on Wilshire and they never get to Westchester. Maybe they get a flat tire. Maybe there's so much traffic, like, I don't know, some presidential thing happens and they block all the streets and you can't get here. That happened in New York to us. Maybe they just have a heart attack and they die and they never make it. There's a bunch of reasons why a car full of gas couldn't get you from Wilshire to, what is this street? 83rd Street. So it's not the real cause. It can't be the real cause, because if it was the real cause, it would always work. If gas in your car was the real cause of getting you from this place to this place, it would always get you there. Right? I mean, it's so simple. But we live with these apparent causes. We believe in these apparent causes. We still buy into the gas gets us there mentality. And because of that, when it doesn't happen, when we don't get what we want through trying to work with apparent causes, then we get upset. And then we get hurt, and then we have pain in our life. So this is about trying to find the real causes of what we want. Like the real cause of how to find a perfect partner. So what do you guys think? Is there a perfect partner for everyone? Or are you just lucky and sometimes you find them and sometimes you don't? Or maybe it's not so perfect but you gotta settle for them anyway? Or what do you think really? What do you think? Not you. You know the answer already. Alright. Someone new who I don't see every day down the mountain. Not you guys. No, really, what do you think? What do you think? Yeah.
I think that there is someone for everyone. I think there's someone perfect for everyone.
That's what the Tibetans would say too. That there's a partner for everyone. There's a perfect partner for every single person. Now all we have to do is figure out how to find them, right? Now we have to, because, okay, there's a perfect partner for me. Say I don't have a partner, right? And I'm looking throughout the whole entire world, and I'm like, well, how am I going to find this person? There's how many people in the world? And what are the odds that I go to a Starbucks and I'm sitting there and the perfect one walks right through the door? What are the odds? It looks pretty slim. Right? If we're thinking about it the way that we normally think about how things work in the world, it doesn't look very good. The odds of getting what we want look very poor. And then the odds of, even if they do walk in, will they like me? You know, like, will they even talk to me? Or if I say something, they'll just, like, go find another seat on the other side of the Starbucks, you know? Sometimes they're really small, you get lucky, they have to sit next to you. But, you know, if you're working the odds, they are not in your favor. You know, this is not, if you live the way I was brought up as a child to believe that how the world works, there's not a very good chance that I'm going to get what I want. You know? So we question how we were brought up. We question it. You know, this gentleman here says, yes, there's a perfect partner for everyone, and he looks so hopeful. There's something he knows that we don't know, right? So you have to question, you know, what am I doing? How am I thinking that the world works? I'll give you a last example, and then we'll go on to the next thing. We are plagued all the time in our life by decisions because we think that they are the causes to things when actually they are not. Like, you're planning to find your perfect partner in the Starbucks, down on the promenade, in the Barnes & Noble, right? You've decided that's where he or she is going to walk in, and you're just going to do it, and so you've got all these decisions now, right? Like, okay, I gotta look perfect for my partner, because, you know, when they come in, I gotta attract them. So, I don't know, should I get that little blonde streak thing, or should I go natural? And then suddenly, like, there's a decision in your mind, and you're stressed. You're stressed about it, because you don't know. Will he like it, or does he prefer? My sister called my hair brown. I'm like, it's blonde. In China, it's blonde. When I come back here, it's brown. I'm like, no. It was so funny. I was like, we were just walking down the street one day. She's like, it's brown. I'm like, no. Anyway, so should I make it less brown? And I'm stressed because I don't know what's going to work. Because honestly, you know, some people put blonde highlights in their hair and they get the guy. And then some people put blonde highlights in their hair and they don't get the guy. And then some people, they leave their hair natural and they get the guy. And some people leave their hair natural and they don't get the guy. So what does that tell you about streaking your hair? It doesn't get the guy. It has nothing to do with getting the guy. It's nothing at all. You know, but we think these apparent causes, like the way we look is going to affect whether or not we get the boy or the girl, you know? Or, I don't know, what we wear. You know, say the person comes into Starbucks, you know, you've gone to Starbucks with your laptop alone, right? Because you want to seem available, but you don't want to seem desperate. So you have to have something to do. Like, you know, you're pretending to look on the web. In the corner of your eye, you're watching the door the whole time. You know, and you're nursing this, I don't know what. Like, you're not, I think you're too stressed to get a latte. You're probably just having a hot chocolate or something. And you've got a large so that you can sit there for a really long time just in case they're late. And finally somebody walks in and you're really attracted to them. And they happen to sit down next to you and you happen to start a conversation with them. And you get along and it's going well and you exchange emails. Right? So then the next huge stressful decision comes. should I email them first? Or should I wait for them to email me? Right? You're like, if I email them first, maybe they'll think I'm desperate and they won't like me. But if I wait, then maybe they'll find somebody else before I email them, and then I'll have lost my chance, you know? And there's all these stressful decisions about the way that we think things work. And they all fall into this trap, you know? Every single time you are stressed about a decision that you are trying to make in order to affect the world, you have a mistaken perception of reality. Every single time you've got that anxiety where you're like, I'm not sure what's going to work. It means neither of them are going to work. It means it doesn't really matter. Whoa. Rick thought I should emphasize that point a lot. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what you do at that point. And you're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself like you think that gas in your car is getting you from Santa Monica to Westchester. You're fooling yourself into thinking that's the cause. And it's not at all the cause. And we have to find the real cause of what makes your perfect partner come to you. What makes them attracted to you? What makes them stay with you? And it has nothing to do with anything you were ever taught before. When it really happens right, as you know, this gentleman here in the middle probably can tell you, it's effortless. It's like magic, you know, it's like a miracle. You're not even in the Starbucks, you're in Trader Joe's, and you're not even thinking about your partner. And you're reaching for that big hunk of raw chocolate at the checkout counter, and suddenly someone's hand brushes yours. And you look up, and it's total accident, and right? When the causes are there, when the real causes for what you want are there, you don't have to think about it at all because it'll just happen. And you've had things like that happen to you, where it's just like magic, and you're like, wow, God, how do you even meet? Oh my God, you know, and you tell these stories. Like to your grandchildren and stuff like that. Oh, we were in the Trader Joe's, his hand touched mine, the chocolate, you know. And it'll be like that, you know. But first we have to figure out what's the real cause.
There are two new ideas you need to know to make this work. And they're completely new, you haven't heard of them before, but I think that should be a comfort. Because you've tried everything you ever heard and it didn't work, you see? So if there's some kind of magic way to find a partner and be happy with them, and stay with them, then it kind of makes sense that it might be something we haven't tried before, right? Because we've been through, like, I had a 25-year gap there, but even in high school and college, like 10 failed relationships, right? So you've tried almost everything, right? This is something completely new. But something completely new takes a little, what do you call it? You're gonna have to think hard for the next 20 minutes or so, okay? Because it's new. It's something new. Okay, we try to package it easily, but it's different. It's something completely different, okay? So I'm going to do emptiness, you know? You need to understand emptiness to do spiritual partners. To get a partner this way, to have them just show up in Trader Joe's by accident, with no effort at all, you need to understand emptiness. So I like to teach it by teaching what emptiness is not. Because that's how it happened to me, right? And if you heard this story 400 times, I don't care. All right. So, you know, the Dalai Lama, I studied in India, and then I met His Holiness, and I said, you know, I have to go back to America, my visa problem, thing like that. Is there a Lama there? He said, yeah, go to this place, New Jersey. it's like a slum, you know. No, not really. And he said, you go to New Jersey and there's this great Lama there, and you study with him. So I went. And although it was like the worst place in the world for me, I went to New Jersey, and I studied with this Lama I stayed with him for 20, 25 years, right? Very great Lama. So here's the first day. Here's the first day at the little Mongolian temple in New Jersey that can't pay its oil bill, right? And I go in, and he says, okay, this is going to be your room. And it was like 6 by 6, 6 feet by 6 feet, you know? And it has a bed, it has a dresser, and it has like 3 square feet, 3 feet down at the bottom of the dresser. He said, this is your room, you know? And I thought, well, maybe for a couple of weeks. So I was in that room for 25 years. He said, you meditate here on the floor. You know, so I'm like, well, what should I meditate about? And he says, you meditate emptiness. You know, you meditate emptiness. He said, do you know emptiness? So, you know what I used to say to him all the time. I said, I know. You know, so he gave me this nickname later on, Mr. I know. You know, so he says, you Americans, you're all I know. You know. So I said, yeah, I know emptiness. He said, okay, you meditate emptiness 1 hour. You come upstairs to my room. You tell me about it. You know. So I sat and I meditated for like an hour, and I went upstairs. I knocked on his door, you know. And there's this thing in Tibet when you approach your teacher, right? You have to be bent over. Through the door, you have to be bent over. When you get near him, you have to stick your tongue out. And then you have to make slurping noises. This is an ancient Tibetan sign of respect. Like, you're so great, I can't even breathe, you know. You know, so I'm like, teacher, I meditate emptiness. You know, and he's like, okay, you tell me what emptiness. You know? I said, it's easy, you know, you sit down, you close your eyes, and you think, black, black, black. You know, and like outer space. Between the stars, just black, you know, everything black, you know, emptiness is black, you know. He looked at me and he said, do you know this Tibetan word? I said, what? He says, kukpa. He says, say kukpa. I said, kukpa. I said, what does it mean? He says, idiot. He says, you kukpa. You can learn some Tibetan tonight. I don't know why, but people always learn bad words in foreign languages. But don't use it.
You always teach the bad words.
Yeah. You want it to hit you. No. So he said, you go back. You meditate again emptiness. You come tell me. You know. So I went downstairs and I sat at that little place where I'm going to spend 25 minutes sitting, and I tried again. You know. And then I went up to the room, knock, you know, and he said, you meditate? I said, yes. He says, what's emptiness? I said, now I got it, you know? You close your eyes, and any thought that comes in your mind, you just stop it, you know? Like, any thought, you just ignore it. You empty your mind, you know? You don't think about anything. And this is emptiness. He said, did you concentrate? I said, yes, teacher, I concentrated. He said, you were focusing your power. I said, yes, focusing my power. And he said, so you were thinking really hard. I said, yes. He said, about thinking about nothing. You were thinking about nothing really hard. I said, yes, teacher. He says, good. You go back. You do it again. This is bad. This is very bad. You're not, I know. You know, so I went back third time, right? And I worked really hard, and I came back, and he said, okay, what is emptiness? I said, now I know. Everything's an illusion. The world is an illusion. The world is just a big show of magic. Nothing matters. You know? You do good, you do evil. nothing matters. It's all illusion, you know. He said, this is the most stupa of all. You know, there's no goodness, there's no evil. It doesn't matter if you hurt people or you help people. Nothing matters. This is the ultimate stupid idea that anyone could ever even express in words, you know. He said, you don't know anything, you know. And then he started training me. It took, I think, I remember the day that I understood. And I think it was after about 15 years or something like that, okay? But I'm going to save you 15 years, okay? I can tell you in 5 minutes, emptiness. And it will help you find a partner. If you want to make $1 million, you can make $1 million. He told me start a company for the refugees. You know, start a diamond company for the refugees. It's a $100 million company now. You know, I don't know anything about business, nothing. But I know emptiness, right? If you want to stay young, healthy, strong, I can do stuff now I couldn't do when I was 20. And I'm much further than that now. So if you understand this one idea, you can use it for everything. It's very beautiful, very powerful. If you really understand emptiness. So I'm going to talk about the emptiness of aspirin. Okay? We believe that inside an aspirin pill, there are chemicals which can take away our headache. You know, that's why you own aspirin. You know, everyone here has a bottle of aspirin somewhere. You know, we have them in our yoga bag. We walk into yoga, I set it down, it goes click, 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 all the bottles, etc., and aspirin, other stuff. They will click, click, and everybody in the room looks at me, you know. We own aspirin. Why? Because there's something inside the aspirin that helps your headache, right? But there's a problem. Sometimes you take an aspirin and nothing happens. Nothing happens. You know, you take one, then you take another, then you ask your partner, you know, it's bedtime, I still have a headache, should I take 3 or 4? I don't know what to do, you know. And then they don't work, you see. Sometimes you take one or you take half of a one, and the headache goes away, right? This is emptiness, you see. It's very, very, very important to understand this. If you understand this, you can do anything. The aspirin doesn't have anything in it that cures a headache. Why? Some people take the aspirin, nothing happens. Some people take the aspirin, the headache goes away. Sometimes you take an aspirin in the afternoon, it doesn't work. Sometimes you take an aspirin in the evening, it does work. Right? So, we must conclude one thing. Above all, we must conclude one thing. The aspirin doesn't have anything in it which takes away the headache. Something else is taking away your headache. You see? It's not in the aspirin. That's the emptiness of an aspirin. Got it? Got it? Everything has that. Everything has that. Your head has that. The church has that. The floor has that. Your stomach has that. The last thought you had has that. You see? Everything is not itself. Everything is not itself. An aspirin is not medicine. Because medicine is defined as something which helps a disease or an illness. And aspirin doesn't. Because it doesn't do it all the time. You see? There's something else than the things in the aspirin that are making the aspirin work. What? You see? What makes an aspirin work? If it's not the chemicals in the aspirin, then why does the aspirin work for some people sometimes, right? I can't answer. But Lama Kristen can.
That's just because it's my turn. We got our screen up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we have a lot of questions to answer, right? Why does the aspirin work sometimes? I mean, if aspirin is not what cures your headache, should we just stop using aspirin? Or, I'll give you another option? Should we figure out why the aspirin works sometimes and then make it work all the time? Right? So let's talk a little bit about where our reality comes from. The Tibetans like to say that this world is like a dream. So, go back to the last dream you had. You're in a deep state of consciousness and it's just black, there's nothing there. And then all of a sudden, you're on a hilltop somewhere, looking out over a valley. And it's a land you've never seen before. And suddenly, this story starts to write itself, right? Of a place where you are. And then maybe you notice there's someone next to you. And then suddenly your identity starts to write itself. Like, why am I on this hill? And who is that? And who is that will tell you who you are in the dream. Because you're not always the person that you are when you wake, right? Like maybe you're a young prince, on the top of this hill with your friend, and you're about to jump off to see if you can fly. Because you can do that in dreams, right? You can do wild things like that in dreams. And, but you watch your mind. You reflect on how the dream is created from nothing. Is this place real? Is the valley you're looking at real? Is the person next to you real? Are you real in the dream? I mean, you're not yourself, you're someone else. All of these things are mental images. They're projections of your mind, right? And you see them in the dream, and you feel them in the dream. You can taste things in dreams. You can smell things in dreams. You can touch things in dreams. You can feel in the dream, right? I've woken up crying before in my dreams. And I wake myself up, it doesn't happen very often, don't worry. But I've woken myself up sobbing before. And I wake up and I realize that the thing I'm sobbing about doesn't really exist. But the pain is still there. The pain is real, right? And this is kind of exactly like our life. Everything that we are experiencing with our senses, with our eyes and our ears and our nose and our mouth and our touch, everything that we experience, we think that it's coming this way. We think that the world is out there and we're walking through it. But in actual fact, it's completely the opposite. We are projecting the world out of a tiny little drop in our heart. Tiny little drop in our heart is projecting all these sounds and sights and touches and tastes, and everything is coming from here, outwards. We are just like in a dream, creating the landscape, creating the story, and then walking in it. We create the landscape, and then we create the person who we are within that landscape. At every moment of the day, that's what we're doing. You are sitting here, creating the church, creating the people next to you in the church. Everything is coming from this tiny little drop inside of your heart, including how you feel about, where you are right this second. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Is it kind of boring? Is it not so boring? It's like everything that you're hearing from us, it's coming from your mind, right? It's a 180-degree shift in what we've always been taught, right? Like everything, we were always taught things were coming out from out here. We were always taught that things were already there and we had to go and try to affect them and try to move them around. But, that sort of makes us a little bit powerless. because the world is such a huge place. And how could we possibly go and affect it that much? Like, you know, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. There's a tiny little picture of His Holiness at age 24. When they sent the pictures, when they sent all the tankas of, I get to use this neat little red thing. Oh, I would have figured that out. See, there's His Holiness the Dalai Lama at age 24. Can you zoom in? Can you do that? Is it?
He's zooming in.
Oh well. So when they sent the tankas to New Jersey, they also sent this beautiful picture of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And His Holiness, you know, he affects the world, you know, in this really, really powerful way, because he understands where the world really comes from, right? And, you know, he goes to New York City in the heat of the summer when the violence is at its worst, and all the violence stops when he's in town. Like, there's no crime when His Holiness shows up in New York City. I don't know if you know that. It's in the New York Times. Whenever he comes, they print these really radical statistics of how crime just disappears whenever he's in the room, you know? So, back to the seeds that are coming from your heart. These seeds, they ripen at 65 imprints ripen per second. They create the illusion of movement. And if you talk to anybody in film, it's the same speed that a motion picture needs to be played at in order to create a true illusion of movement in the world. So you are getting 65 images per second to create your world, to create a feeling that there is a world that exists outside of you, right? But it's all coming from here. Where is this world coming from, right? Because, I don't know, I live in a world that's kind of imperfect right now. You know, my country's at war, I'm sort of embarrassed about that, and I don't believe in violence, and I would like to change that. And if it's true that all of the world that I am seeing is coming from thought seeds inside my own heart, that means I'm the one responsible for the war. I'm the one responsible for all the violence in this world, right? If it's true. But that also means that I have full power to change it. You see, if the world was actually out there, if the violence was actually out there, I'm just one little person, I can't do anything. If, on the other hand, it's true that this world is all coming from mental images created by my mind and projecting outwards, and I am projecting it and then walking in it, moment by moment, step by step, if that is true, then every single act of violence is in my hands. And I can change it just by changing my own mind, my own heart. It is a totally radical idea, right? So, what causes violence in your world? That's an easy one, right? Like, what causes me to project a mental image out into my world so that I am living in a world where people are killing each other for no good reason? This is the way the mind works. Every single time you think something, you say something to somebody, you do something, it makes a mental image in your mind. And it's stored. It's like an impression in clay, and it's stored inside your heart. It's like a single mental image, and it's the same as the output is the same as the input. You create 65 mental images per second, right? So you are creating 65 mental images every second. You are planting seeds in your own heart. As you think, as you say, as you do things. And then they gestate there, just like normal seeds inside the ground. They gestate in your heart. And then at a certain point, they start to ripen. And when they ripen as your outside world. So everything you are experiencing right this second now is from seeds that you have planted in the past. Every single color you see in this room, every single sound you hear, it's all from a seeds that you have planted in the past in your heart. And it's just like the Bible says, for God's sake. As you sow, so shall you reap, right? I mean, we're in a church. Everything that you see outside in your world is from something that you did to somebody else in the past. Every single thing. Every single thing. So all the violence that I see, and I don't know what kind of world you live in. You know? If I can't read your mind, then I can't see the world that you live in. You guys might all live in a perfect world, violence-free, you know, like someone in the left-hand corner up here. But in my world, you know, I have violence still. And I know that every single violent thing that exists in the world comes from a violent thought in my own mind that I have planted in the past. It's a radical concept. It's a radical idea. But, you know, the tradition in Buddhism is don't just believe everything that you hear. Go out and try something, right? Try something simple. Like we say, there's an economic frenzy in Santa Monica right now. Because, you know, certain things are happening. And people are worried about money, right? Some people are worried about money. So the natural reaction when you're worried about money is to, like, hold your money tighter in towards you, you know? It's actually the wrong instinct if you want to make the economic situation in your own life change. Because every single dollar you have ever seen in your own pocket comes from you being generous to somebody else in the past. Every single one. It does not come from what you have done for a job. It does not come from working. Money does not come from working. Money comes from generosity. That's it. That's the only way that you get money. So, you do a little test, right? These crazy two people got up in Westchester and said that everything is coming from my mind, and that if I'm generous, I will see my financial situation shift. So, do a test. You know, for the next 3 months, I am going to be incredibly generous. And I'm going to do it consciously, and I'm going to do it just to see if they're right. What's it going to do? You know? If we're wrong, you just get some really good feelings from helping other people with your money, and then you lose a little bit, so it doesn't matter. But if we're right, and your financial situation actually starts to change, that means you can affect anything else in your world too. Like war, or like finding a partner, which is the subject of tonight. You know, we'll get back to it. So, partners, right? What is, let's go back to the aspirin. Why does aspirin work? Like, if you had an aspirin and it worked, what would be the real cause?
You cured someone's headache in the past?
Yeah, you helped somebody else with their headache in the past. Maybe you gave them an aspirin. Maybe when you have a headache, you should find someone else with a headache and give them an aspirin. Seriously. Like, this is a new world order here. It's like a new way of living. Everything you want to happen in your own life, you have to find some way to do it for somebody else first. So, you want a partner. Help other people's relationships. Encourage other people's relationships. When somebody is you know, out to dinner with you saying, I don't know, this is getting really hard, I didn't know this relationship was going to be so time consuming and it's giving me headaches, this headache thing again, and you say, no, they're totally worth it, and this is all the good qualities, blah, 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 you know, and you encourage them to stay together, and you help them out with how they maybe can interact in a more positive way, or that's one very powerful karmic seed to plant in your mind, right? Thought seeds to plant in your mind. Because what happens is, your mind is like that video recorder there. You're watching yourself say that to that person. You're watching yourself bring up two people closer together. And that plants a really powerful seed in your own mind to see you very close in the future be brought together with somebody you love, right? And it's just so simple. You know? Another very, very good way. You know, your dad and your sister and your stepmom have these 2 dogs outside their house and nobody talks to them ever, plays with them, and you just go outside and play with them for like 10 minutes. Seriously. Right? Why? Because they're lonely and bored and they want a friend. And you're planting seeds to see yourself help a lonely person, or a lonely dog, you know? Or you call somebody that you know needs a friend. Or you take somebody out to dinner that nobody likes. No, seriously, like, you're a friend to people in need. You're a friend to people who need company. And that brings a companion to you, right? It plants a seed in your mind because you're watching yourself do it. You're watching yourself give your own precious time to somebody who needs you. And somebody who would really appreciate a friend right now. And then a friend comes to you, right? And it's really the only way that you can get a partner, you know, is to plant the seeds in your heart, to live by the real causes, to live by the real causes. Yeah, I think that's it. So, you know, I get this from him, it's like contagious when you're around a lama, it just kind of bleeds into you. He's always like, one more thing. And now I find myself doing it. I'm like, oh, one more thing. After the break, we're going to talk a little bit more about, because there are certain ways that you need to plant these seeds. Because, you know, inevitably someone will come to me during the break, and so I'm just going to head you off of the past and I'm going to say it for you. I know people who are friends to lonely people and they still don't have partners. Or I know people who are really generous and they still don't have any money. Or I know people who, you know, you have all these buts in your mind or doubts in your mind. There's a way. Karma is infallible, you know. You plant a seed in your mind and it will ripen. But when it ripens or how it ripens is, you know, a little bit iffy. I mean, you have billions of seeds in your mind, and sometimes they don't ripen until the next life or lifetimes from now. And there are ways you can make your karmic seeds go off faster, you know, ripen faster. And we're going to talk about that after the break. So, right.
3 things before the break. One, the book is available here, I think, right? And again, it's expensive and we're giving 100% of the money to this temple to keep it going. And it's important to help community churches. Churches should survive. Temples should survive. They keep towns safe in their own little quiet way. You know, places like this should survive. And so if you want to help with that, the book is a book of prophecy. In our monastery, there's a tradition that if you're having trouble, or if you're having doubt, or if you have a decision to make in your life, you take this book and you just open it up. Oh, that's a weird one. says, so Kaba had 1,000 places, meaning 1,000 different roles to play, you know? So now I know I should try to develop more Geshe Michaels or something, you know what I mean? So we use it as a book of prophecy in the monastery, so it's very cool to have one. And so we encourage you to get one. Secondly, I took a lot of my training at a Tibetan monastery in India, and every year we send about 10 to 20 young people there. We give them free scholarships, we pay for the airfare, and we send them to the monastery. And then they come back, and we've been doing it for about 5 years now, and they've become very good teachers. And they've learned a lot, and they spread these really good, happy things among Americans, you know. So how do we pay for the airfares? We sell cookies at the breaks. So we want you to really overeat at the break, okay? And we encourage you to buy something, okay? And we just do bake sales, and it's worked all these years. It's enough money to send young people to the monastery to study. So, and if you pay $20 for a chocolate chip cookie, we're not selling yours, okay? That's okay, you know? Like if you want to pay a little extra, that's okay. That was the second thing. Third thing, there will be some courses this weekend at the Mahasukha Center called Developing a Good Heart. And this is a combination of yoga, prayer, and music from the Christian tradition and the Buddhist tradition. So there'll be Christians and Buddhists there. And they'll be teaching a course. One is a Buddhist monk, and then Mercedes Bachleder here. And a LA yoga teacher named Sarah Canfield. And they will be working together to teach a very beautiful, practical way especially for Christian practitioners, if you're on a Christian path, but you'd like to use meditation methods or learn special methods to enhance your path. They're teaching that. So it's, I think, 11 to 3. And there's no charge. If you'd like to pay, you can give something, and you don't have to. Okay? It's just free. And the Mahasukha Center generally is free, and it's nearby here. And you should pick up one of their pamphlets. And if this kind of teaching is being given there every day, just for free, just to make the world a better place. So if you like, pick up the pamphlet and visit sometime. Okay? So what we like to do during the break is, if you've never met us and you'd like to come up and say hi, or if you want to ask a personal question, this doesn't take an hour to answer, then just come up and don't feel shy, and just come up. If there's too many people tonight, we'll keep going tomorrow, okay? And we're willing to sign books just very quickly. Tomorrow night after the talk, we'll have a long, people want to stick around and sign books, we can do that also. Okay, so have a nice break, buy a lot of cookies, and we'll see you in like 10-15 minutes. You're more rowdy than New Yorkers.
Hello.
Okay.
Too much sugar. Thanks for buying all the baked goods.
Yeah, we're just going to go for like another half hour. We'll do one round each. I don't know where the poster is. It says Be Grateful.
But they have it.
Yeah? Oh, okay.
It's number...
No, that's...
for Rick.
It's number 8?
Yeah. No peeking at the other ones. No, that's tomorrow. There we go. Wait.
So,
Thank you.
if someone asks you what's emptiness, you're going to say an aspirin is empty of being an aspirin, right? Why? Because it doesn't do what aspirins do. Okay? So in that sense, an aspirin is not an aspirin. You see? If an aspirin fixed your headache every time, you could call it an aspirin, because then it would be a medicine, and then it would be what it is. but it doesn't. So in a way, an aspirin is not an aspirin, you see? So we can say an aspirin is empty, right? There's nothing in the aspirin that is curing your headache. You could put sugar in the aspirin, you could put caffeine, you could put chalk powder, and it wouldn't matter, because it's not what's in the aspirin which is curing your headache. We call it that you have to load the aspirin. The aspirin is neutral. Neutral means empty. So when you hear empty, you can think neutral, right? There's nothing in the aspirin that makes it work. So why does an aspirin work? When an aspirin does work, why does an aspirin work? We like to compare it to a stapler. You know? I mean, if you have a stapler and you don't put any staples in it, it doesn't work. It doesn't help anything. It's just a stapler with no staples. You can't use it for anything. You can call it a paperweight, but you can't really call it a stapler, right? If you put staples in it, if you load the stapler, then you can connect pieces of paper with it, right? Then it's a stapler, right? Aspirin is the same, okay? Aspirin is a white physical substance that doesn't do anything. If you load it with karma, it will cure a headache. If you don't load it, it won't cure a headache. So the same pill for a person who has loaded it will cure their headache. And the same pill given to a person who hasn't loaded it will do nothing for their headache. So what's your next question? How do you load aspirin? Because I get headaches and I would like to know. And what Lama Krishna said. Basically karma is predictable, right? Aspirins will work for you if you try to help other people in pain. You see? It's just what Jesus said, really, you know? And I don't know, we both grew up Christian and we both had a lot of Christian training, and it's only now that we appreciate and understand it, right? Like, what you would have done unto you, you must first do for someone else, right? And that's the basic rule. It's the same thing in karma, right? If you want aspirin to work for you, you must help other people in pain. And then the stapler is loaded, you see? Then the aspirin is loaded with nothing that you can see, because it's coming from you. It's coming from your mind, you see? So it's very beautiful. So then the question becomes, well, you know, we live in America. We went to McDonald's. We were in retreat for 3 years, right? Silent retreat in the desert for 3 years. Like, we didn't get a single French fry for 3 years, you know? So what do we do the first day out? This guy, John Stillwell, he picks us up in his car. He says, I'm taking you. He said, where? He says, McDonald's, of course. You know, we have this headache just from being out of the cabin, you know, like to come out of the cabin gave us a headache. And then he puts us in the car. On the way to McDonald's, he tells us about 9/11. Because we never heard. This is 2 years later. We're the only people in the world that never heard of 9/11, you know. So in the car, we're already disoriented, and we already have headaches, and he's like telling us how he was caught in an elevator across the street from the World Trade Center for 6 hours. And we're like, John, maybe you could tell us tomorrow or the next day, you know. And then he stops with this big guy, and the guy's like, can I help you? And he's like, yeah, we'll have 4 large fries and some milkshakes, and you know, we're like, no, John, no, you know. But, you know, then we were timing it, and we figured out that if you get your fries in more than 3 minutes, you get angry. You see, if it takes more than 3 minutes to get your fries, you start to get angry. You know, like, that's who we are in America, you know? Because if the fries take 4 minutes, you're like really angry, you know? No, it's true. So, you know, my wise old Tibetan teachers, they're stroking their beards and they're like, there's this karma thing, and if you want the aspirin to work, you must help people in pain. And there's 3 kinds of karma. One ripens in 2 lifetimes. One ripens in 1 lifetime. I said, cut it. I don't want to know. You know, how do you get it to work in an hour? How do you get it to work in, you know, how can you get karma to ripen in like a week or something, you know, like, You're never going to sell this stuff in America if it takes a lifetime or 2 lifetimes. They're like, well, nobody asked. And then they taught us 2 things. If you really want karma to speed up, and you want to make it fast, right? There's two methods, 2 really cool methods. One is called rejoicing, okay? And that's like, we are limited people, you see? We're not like the Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama says, I'm coming to Vancouver. We were there. 50,000 seats sold out in 23 minutes. 50,000 seats. We're not like the Dalai Lama, Like we can fill a church with 100 people or so if there's 8 weeks of advertising, And we call all our college friends. Right, Lori? And high school friends.
My sister.
And a sister. You bring that family.
Fill the first 2 rows.
So rejoicing is cool. Rejoicing is a system, a karmic system, by which you can enhance your own feeble efforts. You see? So, like, you can help a few people in pain, right? You have the power to help a few people in pain. But there's this thing about karma. If you hear about someone else who is helping many sick people, like, if you hear about, like, Mother Teresa, and you sit on your couch at home, and you have a hot chocolate, and you think about her, and you think, she's cool. What she does is really cool. Like, I can't go to Calcutta, and I probably wouldn't want to, right? But she's there, and she's helping hundreds and thousands of people. She's wonderful. That thought is 10% of her effort. You see? That thought is worth 10% of her karma. It's fixed. The rate is fixed. People say, well, why not 9? Why not 11? But it's true. It's really true. And we are people who have succeeded in what we do, right? So we tried to raise money for refugees. We started a $100 million company. We just showed up 2 days a week. And because we understand these what do you call it? Speeding up methods. Methods to speed things up, right? So the coolest one, the easiest one is called hot chocolate on the couch method. And you make a hot chocolate, and you sit on the couch, and you just be glad about somebody else who's doing what the karma that you want to do, right? So if you want to meet a partner, right? You want to meet a really nice partner. So you sit on the couch and you think, God, I have this friend, they help all the lonely people that they meet, Like, I'm too busy because I'm writing books about helping lonely people. But they actually help them, And they go out every day, and they go to the store, and they meet someone, and they turn around, and they start talking, like her dad. We take him to the promenade, right? And we take him into, what's it called, Club Monaco, which has really cool employees. And he starts talking to lonely people there. He just starts talking to them, And we're too shy, or we're too, inhibited, right? But he's got this natural warmth, and he just starts, he makes everyone in the place feel less lonely. He just goes up to people and says, hi, I'm Vince, and what do you do? And it's really cool. And so I'm not able to do that. Like, I'm still too inhibited to do that. But I can rejoice in her father's attitude. I can sit on the couch with a cocoa, and I can think, Vince is cool. In that way, he's so cool. He helps so many lonely people. Everywhere he goes, he starts talking to people who are lonely, and he helps them. I get 10% of Vince's karma without doing anything. You see? So that's my first suggestion. And it comes from people, we've used these principles, and it works. Okay, so just be happy about what other people are doing. What do we tend to do?
Be jealous.
We tend to be jealous. You're like, Vince is all friendly to everybody, and I can't be. So it's a creep. No, you see? We tend to be jealous of people. And we tend not to appreciate the people around us, So So think about someone you know who is helping lonely people. And then be glad. Just be glad. That is raw karma. It's more powerful than speaking or doing. The mind, we call raw karma. Senpa yiki leino. That's in the definition of karma in the scripture. It's mental, you see. Most of the karma you make in your life is the silent thoughts in your own mind that no one else knows. You see? You can smile at the people you don't like. You can do stuff for them, but if you don't like them, you're making bad karma already, you see? So you use the opposite. Say, I'm just really glad about this, you know? That's cool. He's probably calling right now. Trust me, definitely, right? Okay. So that's one. The other easy way to make karma, fast karma. No, and I'm talking you want to make a business. You want to make a business with no business experience and have it. It's actually $240 million a year now, you know? So how do you do that? Sit at home with a cocoa, you know? I didn't go in on Wednesdays, and I didn't go in on, and I went to the monastery for 6 months at a time. And so how did you build this company? At home and on the bus. I'm thinking how cool people are who help poor people. And how good it is what they're doing, you see? And how good it is that we live in a society where generosity is valued. Because of Jesus and Moses, you know? I just sit there at home and think of how lucky I am to live in this world, in this culture, where generosity is considered a great deed, you know? Then I get 10% of all you guys schmucks work. And I'm just sitting at home, you know? So that's one way. The second one is be thankful to people who help you, you know? Just be grateful. And it doesn't cost you anything, you know? Like, I did a long retreat in India. I came back to America, you know? And I walked into a bank, and this lady looks at me and she smiles and she says, "Can I help you?" And I'm like, oh God, I'm back in America. You know? Somebody wants to help me, you know? No, and I'm like, thank you, you know? And she says, for what? You know, and I said, for wanting to help me, you know? And I'm like, she says, but I get paid to want to help you. You know? And I said, I don't care. Because in this moment, I'm thinking, her life, she spent this day in the bank for me. You know, she lost a day of her life, and she cannot get it back. She's one day closer to her death, right? She has spent a priceless thing, human lifetime, that cannot be replaced by anybody, right? She has given me this day to say, I'll help you. You know, can I help you? You know? Yeah, she's getting paid $9, $10 an hour. What? Is a life worth that? You know, is it one day of human life worth $90 or $80? You know, you can't replace human life. You know, she's one day closer to her death. She may die next year. She may die tomorrow. She may die in a nursing home at 90, right? But she gave this day to me, you know? And you have to be grateful. You know, all the food you eat, it's so easy to be grateful, you know? You sit and eat your Cheerios and say, how many people worked so hard to create this food for me, you know? How many people struggled, you know, worked all day. They drove the Cheerios to the store. You know, sometimes we just go to the store and we watch the people put the food on the shelves. And in our minds, we just thank them, you know? And it's a really, really happy practice. It's a beautiful, beautiful, it's a high meditation. And if you want the karma fast, if you want karma to work fast, you know, if you want a McDonald's of karma, those two things. Be happy about other people who are helping lonely people, and then you will find a partner right away. A good partner. Or thank the people who connected you up with other people. You know, thank the people, thank your mother, thank your father. These are very powerful karma. The most powerful karma in the world is your father, your mother, and your teacher. You know? So thank them. Thanks. Okay. And thank them all the time. Thank them while you have them, right? And thank them. And those two karmas are very, very powerful. Like, if you really want to find a partner this way, be happy about people who help lonely people. Help lonely people yourself. And then just be thankful for the people who love you. For the people who have given you love. That you are not lonely. You see? Just think them in your mind. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't take any time. You can do it on a bus. You can do it in the bathroom. You can do it everywhere. You see? It doesn't cost you anything. And then you're surrounded by lovely people all the time. Because that's karma. It's free. Right? And we're just lazy. Okay? So just try. Try it. Okay. Last one.
I'm not quite sure about that.
Which one?
Yeah, that's it. So, for the last time we used to talk about angels. Everybody, Buddhism gets a bad rap, they think, oh, it's all this philosophy and there's no holy beings. That's not true, We really like angels. There's a process that every being must go through in, their existence. As it's an evolutionary process that you will all go through. You will all eventually reach the state of a holy enlightened being, of an angel, you can say. And this process has to do with understanding emptiness more and more deeply as you progress on your spiritual path. Understanding the nature of the world around you and reality. And so there are people who have gone through this path. There are people who have reached the end of this path. They have gone into a deep state of meditation and they have seen ultimate reality directly. And they have come out, and because of the power of what they have seen, they were able to transform themselves into a being that's no longer flesh and bone and blood, a being that doesn't have to feel any pain, a being that doesn't have to die. They are transforming themselves into beings of light that are indestructible, that live forever. And people have reached this goal. People have reached this goal, and you will eventually reach this goal too, because it is our ultimate evolution, and it's inevitable. But it's kind of up to you how long it takes. I mean, you will all get there eventually, whether you like it or not. But how quickly you get there depends on how hard you work, And that's, I feel like, all these beings, they used to be in our class in high school or college or whatever, and they were sitting right next to us, but they worked a little bit harder in the class than we did. And they got enlightened and we didn't, and we're still here. And, but we'll be there. We'll be there eventually. To even hear the word emptiness in your life is a very powerful thing, To even wrap your mind around the concept of maybe the world is not coming from this way, maybe it's actually coming from me. That is, to just think about that for 10 minutes. Most beings don't get that far, right? So already we're at this level. Already we're at this incredible place where we are so close to reaching the ultimate goal. Because, you won't just think about this for 10 minutes. We've planted seeds in your mind. You will go home and you will think about this later. And the next time you pick up an aspirin, you will think about us. And there will be no choice. You're stuck. And it's your evolutionary process, right? So what is it like when we reach the ultimate goal? What are these holy beings like? They're in a state of total bliss all the time. Imagine the most blissful experience you've ever had, multiply it by 100,000, and then imagine it continuing to eternity. That's where they are, you know? Why? Because they're constantly helping other people. And it constantly generates but they're in like a, what do you call it? Like a loop, where they're creating such amazing good karma all the time that it keeps coming back to them, you know, as this incredible bliss. And they will live like that forever, right? They have perfect angelic bodies, the most beautiful thing you could possibly imagine. You know, you will be the most beautiful creature you possibly can imagine. You will be that, you know. Sometimes we do these exercises when we're trying to think of ourselves, we're trying to think of the ultimate goal. We just go through like really beautiful magazines and try and pick out the person that we think is the most beautiful, but then imagine them not as a human, but as light, you know. I don't know, who you think? I just saw The Reader. I think Kate Winslet is so gorgeous. No, I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I'll be like Kate Winslet, but I'll be like light. You know, like, and it's an exercise that you do. You know, it's a part of the training in the monastery to do this kind of thing, to think about the ultimate goal. So, you know, you'll have this body, then you have this mind. Two qualities to your mind. One, you're totally omniscient. You can reach out in your heart and touch the hearts of every single being in every universe there is, and know their thoughts, and know their deepest desires. All at the same time. I mean, your mind is so vast. Right now we can only hold one thing in our mind at a time. Right? But when we reach the ultimate goal, it's like we can hear everyone, all at the same time. It's almost too hard to imagine, right? But just think about being able to reach out and touch the hearts of every single being. And then your heart is just so wide open that every being you touch, you're just madly in love with. You just love them so much. It's like you love every single being as much as your only child. As much as a mother loves her only child, you love everyone. Imagine walking down the promenade, and every face you see, you're just like, I love you so much. What can I do to help you? What can I do to get you to the ultimate goal? What can I do to get you beyond all this pain and suffering and reach a state of ultimate happiness? That's who you will be. You know? That's who you will be. But the coolest thing about who you will become is this ability that you have to emanate. Holy beings have an ability to turn themselves into any form that would be possible to help another person. So, you're sitting there in your enlightened paradise, in your holy body, Kate Winslet with light, and you see someone on the bus that's lonely, and you emanate someone to sit next to them and talk to them and make them feel better. Or you see a child who needs a friend, and you emanate as a dog to come and stay with them in their room and love them. Or you see someone who needs to work on their patience, and you emanate as someone who just like yells at them or steps on their foot. You can emanate as anything you want, you know? And your emanations are limitless. So, other people have reached this goal. There are enlightened beings. And they are emanating to us because they love us so much. They're emanating to us right now. And they are probably emanating as people that you would least expect to be angels, right? They are emanating as people close to us, as our parents, as our children, and as our partners, of course, right? If you were this enlightened being and you knew yourself, wouldn't you plant yourself in some really good location so that you could push the person farther and farther up the path like every single day? Time means nothing to them. They have eternity. They're living for eternity. So like they could plant themselves as your sister and stay there for 60 years, and you would you would never know, you know, and they just say, every once in a while, they say these really profound things that come out of their mouth just to push you in the right direction, to push you farther on the path. So there's a tradition, you know. Right now, you know, we are in a human realm, and we don't think very much about angels. And sometimes when we talk about angels, people are like, yeah, well, you know, I've never seen an angel. I'm not quite sure that they even exist, you know. We do this thing. Can I have the one in your pocket? Because it's not really a pen. Okay. Really a pen. Ha ha ha! That's so funny. Okay. Alright. So we do this thing all the time, and it's really fun to do over and over again, because every time it comes out slightly differently. So there are different realities in any given room. There are different realities, right? You guys look at this, and what do you see? You see a pen. If you're a human, you see a pen, right? If Caitlin's dog came in here, and I went like this, what would he see? What would he do? He would just come and like, you know, because he doesn't see it as a pen. He sees it as a chew toy, right? So, then we say, what is it really? Is it a pen or is it a chew toy? Who's right, the humans or the dogs? Both are right. Because, you know, they can function as both, right? We can write it with this as a pen and you can use it as a chew toy. But what is it really? Like, if all the humans left the room and all the dogs left the room and it was just sitting here on the table, what would it be? By itself, without anybody looking at it, it is neither. Because who is making it a pen? Like, it's our minds. Our minds are making it a pen. We're projecting pen onto this poor little black stick. Right? We're forcing it to be a pen, right? And, you know, that's just another one of our many explanations of emptiness, you know? Like, this is not a pen by itself because not everybody sees it as a pen. Right? Because there are other beings in the world who see it as a chew toy. There are other beings in this room who don't see chew toy and they don't see pen either. They see something else. They look at this flat stick and they see something else. They see something higher. You know? Maybe they see this as Manjushri's blazing sword of wisdom. Maybe they see this as the means to get people to enlightenment. You know, the way that enlightened beings, the only way enlightened beings can reach us is through words and signs. Like that is, like, that's the power of an enlightened being. That's the way they can touch us, is they can emanate to us and they can teach us the Dharma. They can teach us about emptiness. They can teach us about karma. Through words, through signs, through pens. Right? That is their modus operandi, right? That is their method of being, and that's the most powerful method of being to get our minds to change. So this becomes like more valuable than gold to them, right? It's their blazing sword of wisdom that like pierces through our hearts and gets us to enlightenment. And they see this like that. They look at this black stick and they actually see that. They see something totally different than we do. Now, we have just tried to push our minds up a notch from being human to being something a little bit higher, because we're trying to see this as something a little bit more than what our normal karma allows us to see. So there is an exercise to keep pushing our minds to that higher level of reality at any given moment of the day. To like get our minds from a human realm up to a divine realm. And, you know, it's calling to them for help. It's like tapping tapping into their reality, telling ourselves in our mind, I believe in you, and then asking them for a sign, asking them for help, right? So, for instance, you go into Barnes & Noble and you've forgotten about Starbucks because you know it doesn't work. But, or does it, you know? You have to plant the seeds. So you go into Barnes & Noble and you're like, I don't know, maybe you need a sign, you need help from an angel. You know, you're about to ask somebody out on a date and you're not quite sure they're going to say yes, but they happen to be working in the same office as you, right next to you, and if they say no, you're going to have to sit next to a person who rejected you for the rest of your life, and you don't want to do that. So you're like, I need a sign. Are they going to say yes, or are they going to say no? So you're like, ask the angels for help. They're all around you. They can read your mind. They know you're going to ask them. 100 years ago, they knew you were going to ask them. Give me a sign, you know? Give me a sign. Go to Barnes & Noble. Go up the stairs on the elevator. Go to some random shelf, third shelf on the left. Pick the fourth book, open it up to a random page, point your finger at it, and then read the message that the angel left for you. Nothing is random. Nothing is random. Every single thing is a projection of your own mind. Including these beings. Including these beings. So when you tap into a higher level of reality in your own mind, you make the angels real. And you make them able to affect you more. Right? And then you start to do it with people, you know? Forget the books at Barnes & Noble. Let's try tapping into the divine level of the people around us, the people that we live with. Because, you know, if you did the logic, if you know that enlightened beings exist, and they can emanate as many times as they want to help you, they're probably emanating as just about everybody you know to get you enlightened, right? So, pick one person, suspend your disbelief for just a moment, go up to a higher level of reality, and for just a few minutes, see your partner as a holy being. See your partner as somebody who has been sent to save you, who has been sent to drag you kicking and screaming up to enlightenment. You know? Sometimes I feel that way. I fight it so much, you know? The holy beings, they come and help me, and I'm like, no, I don't want to go. I love being human. It's like ridiculous. But that's just me. I'm sure you're much more cooperative. The more we try to see our partners as someone special, as someone divine, as someone who can help us, because of emptiness, we are starting to plant more and more powerful seeds in our mind to see that actually come about, right? So in the beginning, maybe it's a little bit forced. It's a little bit pretend, you know? You're like, holy angel, send me a divine message. And she's like, what's for dinner? And you're like, that wasn't a very divine message, you know? But then, if you do it more and more often, the divine messages get more and more profound, right? Until you're looking at them one day and they just start to glow with light. Like you're sure you see a halo of light around their heads, and you're like, my God, you really are. You really are my holy divine angel. Come to save me. And it's a beautiful practice. It's a beautiful practice. And once you have an honest-to-goodness, solid angel living by your side, your spiritual progress goes very, very quickly. So, we'll talk more about that tomorrow, if you want to come. Okay. I'm supposed to say hello to all the online people. I heard there are 60 people, right, who are listening to us and watching us online. Is it this one or this one? Or okay, hi! Hi, everybody, everybody say hi! Hi! I feel like I'm like that song that, ho! Everybody say ho! We have dance parties at Diamond Mountain, you guys should all come. Anyway, well, that's a good way to wrap up the class. I'm sure Geshe Michael has something to say. Yeah. That's it? You don't have some last minute thing? We're going to end on ho-ho. All right. So we're going to do this, like, traditional, very serious Buddhist prayer now. This is to dedicate all the good karma that we've done tonight together in thinking about these really profound, life-transforming things. You know, we've planted amazing seeds inside our own minds, just talking together for a couple hours like this. And the best way to keep something is to give it away. So just imagine that all these powerful seeds that you've planted, you know, imagine like a glowing ball of light, put your hands together like this, and this glowing ball of light of good karma, you're just going to send out to like all of Santa Monica, all of Westchester, all of the county of Los Angeles, all of California. Send it out as far as you can, right? While we do this prayer. Thank you.